When you sit down at a bench and think about buying a new microscope, the biggest question isn't how many lenses are on it. It's, will this thing actually sit on my desk, let me see what I need, and not eat my budget for a year? You've probably already felt that twinge of hesitation, the fear of splurging on a system that looks great on paper but ends up being a nightmare to align, move, or share with a lab partner. That's why today I'm going to walk through the OMAX M837ZL PhD C90U 2500X phase contrast trinocular LED compound and see whether it lives up to the promise of being reliable, easy to live with, and worth the money. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of work this microscope is built for. OMAX designed the M837 series for people who need phase contrast imaging on a regular basis. Think cell culture labs, teaching environments, or hobbyists who want to see the subtle details of living microorganisms without staining them. If you've ever tried to watch a live algae culture under a brightfield scope and ended up with a fuzzy gray blob, you'll recognize the value of phase contrast right away. The M837ZL PhD C90U pairs a 2500X total magnification range with a dedicated phase contrast condenser, so you can actually resolve those transparent structures in real time. Now, who should consider buying this? If you're a graduate student who spends several hours a week looking at cultured cells, or a high school teacher who wants a sturdy system that can be passed from student to student, the trinocular head is a real advantage. The third eyepiece lets you attach a camera without taking the view away from the observer, which is perfect for live demos or recording time-lapse videos of cell division. On the flip side, if you only need to glance at prepared slides a couple of times a month, you'll probably be paying for capabilities you won't use. The same goes for hobbyists who are happy with a simple brightfield setup. The extra optics and the LED illumination package may feel like overkill. Let's get into the day-to-day experience. The first thing I noticed when I unboxed the microscope was the 37mm mounting size. That's the standard for most lab accessories, which means you can easily add a polarizer or a fluorescence filter later on without needing an adapter. The interpupillary distance adjustment moves smoothly and stays locked, so you don't have to keep readjusting when you switch between users. For a shared lab bench, that small convenience saves a surprising amount of time. The focusing system is where the M837 shows a bit of personality. The coarse and fine focus knobs feel solid, and there's a lock that lets you secure the position once you've found the perfect plane of focus. I found this especially handy when I needed to transport the microscope between two benches. The lock prevented any drift, and the scope arrived at the second bench still centered on the specimen. That said, the lock mechanism isn't as robust as the one on higher-end research models. A very vigorous jolt can loosen it a bit, so you still want to handle it with care during moves. LED illumination is a big selling point. Unlike halogen bulbs that dim over time, the OMAX's LED stays bright for thousands of hours, and you can dim it with a simple dial. In practice, that means you can start a 30-minute observation of live protozoa, adjust the light to avoid phototoxicity, and not worry about the lamp burning out halfway through. The only drawback is that the LED housing is a little recessed, so you have to make sure the condenser is properly aligned before you start. If you skip that step, you'll get uneven illumination that can make phase contrast rings look like artifacts. A quick check with a blank slide usually catches the issue before you waste time on a sample. One of the most practical strengths is the built-in digital camera. It slots into the trinocular port without any extra brackets, and the software that comes with the microscope lets you capture stills or video straight to your computer. I used it to record a 5-minute clip of mitotic spindles forming in a HeLa cell line. The video was clear enough to show the chromosomes moving, and the file size stayed manageable because the camera streams at a modest resolution. If you need higher resolution images for publication, you'll eventually want a dedicated research-grade camera, but for teaching demos or quick documentation, the supplied unit does the job. On the other side of the ledger, there are a couple of hidden trade-offs. The microscope's overall height is a bit taller than some comparable models, which can make it harder to fit under low benches. You might need to adjust the work surface or consider a lower profile stand if space is at a premium. Also, the phase contrast prisms are built into the head, so you can't switch them out for different phase rings without sending the unit back to service. That limits flexibility if you ever need to work with organisms that require a